So, with regards to an old movie, very old, this one, and yes, and again, it's a rom-com, but actually, it's better than most rom-coms. I mean, it's at least sort of innovative. I mean, but of course, then it's just it's contextual to the year it was produced. So I'm talking about so-called You've Got Mail, and of course for anyone watching decades later, it's a bit absurd. I personally didn't know that's exactly how one logged in to AOL specifically. Um, I've only ever used AIM, and obviously it was a different process. Um, I mean, there were a lot of product placements. Yes, there was a criticism that was labeled at it, um, and it was annoying, but in a way, kind of like that Japanese film I once watched that had the KFC founder's statue dragged along and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, that was obviously a huge product placement, even more obvious than any of this here, I'm assuming. But, it still depends ultimately on the storyline itself. Now, while some have said that they consider it too saccharine, I thought personally it really did manage to go somewhere in the middle in terms of the romance specifically. I didn't have that much comedy, to be fair, but in terms of the romance, at least, I think it walked a fine line, and it didn't walk it too badly. It sort of succeeded, I thought. I mean, the fact that they were rivals in real life sort of counteracts their online thing, you know, and most of the movie is taken up by real life, I think, mainly. I mean, just and then it's only the ending there, the last half hour, which is just sort of combines the two. So I don't think it's too excessively sweet in this sense. I mean, there are many other rom-coms that try way too far, especially since they have idiotic comedy as well, and somehow they try to add in romance along with idiotic comedy, which doesn't really work. You know, it's sometimes it's not even comedy that is really funny, just idiotic. Or some rom-coms that have this idiotic idea of uh, people drinking too much and then the inevitable vomiting and such. That's the most idiotic and disgusting thing ever. That is the worst common denominator, in my opinion, in any movies, really. But, just getting drunk and then, following the usual processes isn't quite funny at all in any circumstances, in my opinion. I have no idea why it can be found in many movies. It really can. No idea why. But no, this didn't have any of that. It really was. It seemed warm, really. I mean, uh, it didn't have that much comedy, as I said. So that's kind of drawback. The negative point is supposed to be a rom-com, but it's really more of a romance comedy, I think, or both. So in terms of the ratio, it didn't quite succeed so well. But um, yeah, this is by Noah Ephron, who sadly died some years ago. Um, Now I've seen another movie of hers before, which actually came before this as well, which yet again, of course, has had both of them in Sleepless in Seattle. I think I've watched it before I ever began commentating, so I remember it being very, very similar to this. I obviously didn't know this before I watched it. Um, You've Got Mail did come after it, so yeah, not deliberately, but I happen to push them chronologically. But yeah, I remember more Moonlight. So in Sleepers in Seattle, obviously they use different medium there. It's radio instead of typing and stuff. But she has some interesting ideas. She's almost like um, Makoto Shinkai of the rom-com live action movie world. You know, he's obsessed with doing romances. Not so much rom-com stuff, but I suppose Nora also does mainly romances as opposed to rom-coms. They sort of have a bit of comedy, but mainly romances really. You know, when they start to joke about 152 and such. Yeah, it's kind of comedy, but it's not really, exuberant, really funny comedy or anything. It's just a plot device for the romance mainly. So I consider it more part of that than comedy. It's not really very comedic. I mean, I did find myself laugh at certain junctures, but not very rarely still. So it's not very strong comedically, I think. But otherwise, obviously, I mean, the fact that the shop was broken up, but it was none of business due to the bigger shop, wasn't comedy itself at all, and it happens many other instances right now. So it's not really comedy, but of course it just integrated it into the plot line then, which I don't think it did do that well, really. Cannot deny that, really. But for people who think it may be Suzuki, I think it could have been if it wanted. Like he could have revealed himself when he first met her at well, not first, but when he knew who she was, when he got in his mind when he at that cafe. He could have revealed himself there, and then somehow try to repair a relationship, and went the traditional rom-com route of trying to woo her and such. But it didn't happen, and in a way, it's interesting how it happened. Well, it sort of is, yeah. Him saying that it needs tweaking and such. Um, yeah, the more I talk about it, the more I realize I actually enjoyed it more than I thought. Hmm. I mean, I knew it was better than most rom-coms. The problem, of course, is that it doesn't have much comedy. So, in my opinion, I don't know. I do mainly watch for the comedy, but in terms of the romance, if someone is going in that direction, I mean, I think it works pretty well. The only problem, the nastiest character, in my opinion, so sort of a blemish on the movie. I don't know why he was included. His father, right? Like he never even rebuked him or anything. In fact, he just continued on with the nonsense at one point on the boat. So I don't know why they included him. I mean, when movies normally include a nasty character, it's usually because there's going to be sort of a cathartic point later on in the movie. That is relieved, that then relieves all the nasty bits at the beginning and such. That's usually what happens. Um, that didn't happen here. Although I don't know, at the end, yeah, he implies he's going to lose everything or something, but it's not even made clear as to how. So it doesn't really make much sense. So it doesn't really feel like any sort of catharsis. It's not like he had a big role. He really didn't. But in contrast to the other old man there that was sitting near him, actually, they were quite opposites. The old man was just continually repeating that he dated the older owner of the little book around the corner, and that was sort of it was sort of mini romantic in its own way. The fact that he repeated it a couple of times. Obviously, later on we know that she had died, so whether he stayed with her or not, we're not sure. But he really died in real life as well. Obviously, he was really old. Not the other guy. He didn't somehow. Apparently, there was 10 years difference between them, even though the older guy looked much older. But even the other guy, he apparently was 60 then. He looked older than 60, I think. But anyway, yeah, I don't know why I even look up these details. So it's not like I really care. I just read, like a single paragraph on each actor usually, just for the sake of it. But yeah, this is the thing. So I don't know why movies have these annoying, nasty characters. Like what was it called? National Lampoon's Vacation was also kind of fun as a movie overall. Not as much as this. I mean, it wasn't romance really, but so it did focus more on the comedy. But it did have some moments which were just awful. So even the comedy wasn't really all there, but it did have some comedic bits. But even that movie had some nasty characters that just I don't think anything was resolved with. Just you just put in nasty characters and that's it. They just I don't know. They just leave them there as if somehow. Whereas on the other hand, I don't know. I'm not sure why I'm comparing it to not really quite related movies, different genres as well. But um, Problem Child, I watched relatively recently. That also had a very similar sort of nasty character, similar to You've Got Mail. This his father. They're very similar. His father and her father, I think it was, or was it his father? His father, yeah, in Problem Child. So in both movies, it was the male character's father, and in both movies, well, Problem Child, I suppose. I don't know. I'm not sure if it counts. He had the child threw a cat on him. So I don't know. There was something at least that's part of the whole thing, though, with Problem Child. He destroys everyone's lives, so not quite out of the norm. I mean, but then again, yeah, then he was filmed later on, so it's not like there is somewhat of a catharsis. I mean, it's a comedy movie, so obviously it's from a comedic point of view. I think it works, so in a way, not. I mean, the scenes themselves weren't excessively funny or anything, but it works in the sense of what it's like is for catharsis purposes. Whereas this doesn't really. I mean, I don't even know why they put him there. He was just useless and annoying and just nasty, really. The little he spoke, and somehow Tom Hanks' character entertained him, which is stupid, really. No, I don't know who the character was, but as an actor, but even in real life, I mean, Tom Hanks' character on screen wasn't really that nasty either. Obviously, um, uh, she blamed him for her shop going bankrupt. But obviously, it's more the whole establishment, really, the whole chain that is to blame. Not so much specifically him, but obviously she blamed him because he was in front of her. Until he just managed to convince her somehow. That's the thing. There's a sort of transition where she stops, insulting him and such, to somehow having fun with him and as if they were long lost friends. It wasn't quite so smooth though. It was almost sudden. I thought that might have been smoother. It was all somewhat artificial. They go from the insults to suddenly laughing at each other in a cafe. I don't know. Is that how it works? Yeah. So it's not a perfect movie, but it's not too bad in comparison to most other rom-coms. I mean, even in comparison to Big Fat Greek Wedding, it just had different comedy. I mean, it had more comedy, and in terms of the romance, it wasn't as truly romantic. It was more slapstick romance, I guess you could say. Um, but yeah, overall, I think I like this better, and somehow, even though that one had more comedy, but still not really, really good comedy, just passable comedy. So this one didn't. This one did have less comedy than that, but the romance was better, and in a way, the whole movie felt better. More of a feel good movie. Not that Big Wedding wasn't a feel good movie, but it was. I don't know. They tried to make that it they try to imbue the feel good factor by dancing, and it sort of works, but uh, I don't know, just yeah, they're both. I mean, I actually rated them identically, so I'm just saying, I like You've Got Mail slightly more, possibly because um, well, I can relate to it slightly more, I suppose, in terms of what it is about, in terms of working at some airport desk or airport agency desk and having a big family and eating weird food. I really cannot relate to that much at all. Um, I guess I'm yeah, mainly because I'm not Greek, I suppose. But anyway, yeah. So I'm just saying that this You've Got Mail is interesting, but it still didn't have much comedy. So yeah, just one of those things. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'll definitely watch other of Nora Ephron's. I actually watched another of her movies without even knowing it's her. Actually, I think it was the first one I watched without knowing it's her. Um, yeah, I believe it was called Michael with John Travolta, so slightly different characters. Um, no, that was interesting. Slightly different as well. More like what was it, like a romantic fantasy something. No, I think I liked it as well. So far so good with Nora Ephron. Yeah, and it's unfortunate that she's no longer around. She could have had many other. Um, yeah, but she clearly had a talent at rom-coms. Clearly more than many others do. I mean, I've watched so many rom-coms now, and it's quite something to watch another one on top of many others and actually enjoy it. I mean, I actually enjoyed it. I'm not sure it's because the actors themselves, but no, the script mainly so. And yeah, I read it's like a third film adaptation of the original story with two theater adaptations as well. It's quite a long-running story. Somehow, apparently the original was Hungarian, I think. Yeah. So that's quite interesting. I didn't know it was a third film adaptation. I had heard of the name before, but not quite. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that I mean, in reading, that's a third film adaptation. Then you make the connection that obviously in the other adaptations they used obviously letters instead. This was an updated version in this sense. Internet didn't exist last time it was adapted in the 70s or something, or it was 60s. Um, but yeah, and the point is, one connects it to what the old guy says, like the oldest there. Um, that's in Fox bookstore. So not entirely sure who he was. He was just lingering around. And he says that he loved the other old lady who's now deceased and such, long ago. And he also specifies specifically that they used to correspond. True. I don't think writing is mentioned, I think, but that's the implication. Obviously, there wasn't much else. So that's interesting. It's sort of like connecting. I mean, I haven't watched the other adaptations, but I'm assuming it is an effort at connecting this movie with the other movies which use pen and paper. Obviously, they were also connected in the name itself, the name of the bookshop being the name of the movie previously and such. So, but this was a sort of a plot device that did connect them as well. I'm assuming. So yeah, I think I'll watch them at some point. They seem interesting. Also seem different. So should be interesting enough. I'll yeah, watch them. They're quite old movies, but I think I might guide them possibly. I don't know. We'll see later then, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, it was fine.